Welcome once again to Wolf Family and Other Families Training. I know other people are plugging into this, and I'm glad. If I can be of any help, I'm happy to do that. The last week, you remember that we were talking about the financial needs analysis input sheet. Today I want to talk about the output and how we deal with that between us and the client. So let me remind you a little bit of how this scenario goes. We work on a 2-appointment system. So on the first appointment, we do a presentation, usually takes 25 or 30 minutes. And then we go to the FNA questionnaire that was in last week's training. And we go through those questions. And if you've watched that training, you know exactly how to ask those questions. So I don't want to leave anything to chance. And so now, after that appointment is done, you go to the office or you go to your home. If you don't need any help going through the data, you can do that on your own with your own color printer. I do recommend that you print the financial needs analysis in color. A lot of people are cheap regarding the ink, and they print it in black and white. Folks, don't do that. Make the thing classy. We want people to know that Primerica is a class act. This company is on the New York Stock Exchange, for heaven's sakes. It's a big deal. And so we want people to see that and to see that it is classy. So, you do that, you put it in a nice folder. We have lots of nice folders available in my office, and there's no cost to you. If you decide you want to print it in my office, there's no cost to you. So let me pay for the ink, But now that most of us are kind of self-quarantined, I can understand if you want to do that in your own home. But the financial needs analysis is a rather lengthy document. The worst thing that you could do would be to take this 28-page printout and sit down with a client and say, okay, now here's page 1. And you go through page 1, and then by the following Tuesday, you're going through page 28. You don't want to do that. What you need to do is you give them that document, because that document is your credibility. Any family can go to virtually any financial company and pay several $100s for a financial plan. That financial plan does not include all of the stuff that our financial needs analysis includes. Now you have to be careful. You don't call it a financial plan, it's a financial needs analysis. So we're very precise about the terms. But the people that pay for a financial plan don't get everything that is in the FNA. They don't get the debt snowballing program. They don't get all of the advantages and disadvantages laid out between term and cash value insurance. They don't get the theory of decreasing responsibility, the financial house, all of those things that are in the FNA. They pay $700 to some other company. They're not going to get all that stuff. They're going to get, here's where you are, here's where you need to be, here's an estimate of how to get there. But ours is extremely detailed. I'll tell you how customized the financial needs analysis is. And we talked about this a little bit last time, that it has a program that will take every one of their children and project what the costs are for tuition, room, and board for that child at the time that that child turns 18 at any college or university in the United States. Our database is huge. It has all of them in it. And that's just an example of how highly customized this thing is. It's not some boilerplate thing that, one size fits all. It's customized to that family and their debt and their information. So that's why it's a big document, 28 pages. So you go home and you take a look at the figures. Before you print it out, take a look at it on the computer, because as you're reviewing this thing, if something seems out of line, you don't want it to stay in there. You want, as a personal financial advisor, which is what you are. If you have an insurance license, you're allowed to do the FNA. You're a personal financial advisor, and as such, you want to think about their situation. You don't want to just print the thing out and stuff it in a folder and run to their home. You've got to sit and think about the thing. For example, suppose you put in all of these numbers, and the numbers recommend that they need to save $3,480 a month for retirement. Well, if they make $5,000 a month, they're not going to do that. They can't do that. So you need to work with the figures. There's a routine in the FNA that allows them to start lower and build up to a higher level and still reach the same goals. You need to think about that. If it shows a need for life insurance of $1,200,000 and that's only going to cost them $380 a month, well, they're not going to do that, most people. And it's not in their best interest to try to do that. They may need $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 worth of life insurance, so it would cost a fraction of that. And so you need to, I use the phrase massage those figures, not to make them deceitful, but to make them practical, to make them fit that client. Remember that the most important thing that we do for a client is suitability. We want the product to be suitable for the client, and if it's not something that they can afford, then it's unsuitable. And we need to think about that for each client. So you run the financial needs analysis, you massage whatever figures have to be massaged to make it suitable for the client, you print it out, you put it in a folder, and you go back to the client. What do you show them, and what do you leave unshown, okay? Now, you're going to give the whole thing to them. So nothing's going to be kept from the client. But hopefully you understand the principle now that you're well into your adulthood. You understand the principle of communication that says you give people the amount of information that they need. God does that. When God is directing somebody's life, He gives them the information they need to take the next step. He doesn't tell them what the next 100 steps are going to be like. He just tells you, okay, here's what you need to do next. Well, that's what this family needs. They need to know what they need to do next, and so we're gonna break that down in just a few moments. But so here's an example of a financial needs analysis. Like I said, we've got lots of folders. I've got a nice blue one in the office, and it's probably the one that you would use. But keep in mind, you don't have to pay for any of that. But I left the pages unprinted. I mean, they're printed, unbound, because I want to show you how much stuff there is in here, and I wanted to be able to get from one page to another. But this is the front page of that thing. It's going to have your name in there, and so my gosh, this guy must be something important. It's his name that's on there, his office number, and so what do you show the client? Now, the first thing that you show the client is usually about 3 pages into the financial needs analysis, and it's called your financial house. When people are putting together their financial program for the future, it's like building a house. And I'll tell people, now John and Mary, if you wanted to build a house, do you start with the roof and then pick it up and slide the second story under that, and then pick that up, slide the first story, finally slide the foundation under that? No, you start with the foundation. John and Mary, the foundation of every financial plan is taking care of things you cannot plan for, like dying. Taking care of that, taking care of your health insurance, taking care of your car insurance and your homeowner's insurance, the things that are unplanned that can happen. And so at the very foundation of every financial plan is protection management. That's the need of life insurance. And the only people who do not need life insurance are people who are self-insured because they already have millions of dollars put away and they don't have to worry about renting an estate from a life insurance company, or people that don't have any financial responsibilities. You know, if you've got somebody who's 17 years of age and he spends most of his time at the beach with his girlfriend, and you know, if you ask him about kids or marriage or anything, he say, "Whoa, dude, don't push," you know. Well, he doesn't need life insurance, but almost everybody else does. People who have young children, people who are not self-insured, those people need some kind of life insurance, and they need the theory of decreasing responsibility to do that. And so hopefully you have shown them in the first presentation, you've shown them the theory of decreasing responsibility. When do you need life insurance? You need it in the early years when you got young kids, you got a big mortgage or a lot of rent, you've got a lot of debt, and the cost to the family of, losing a major breadwinner would be absolutely devastating. But in the later years, when you've got your, $1.2 million put away, well, you don't need life insurance because they've got the money in cash. And so, as I mentioned last time, Primerica is the only company that owns insurance companies that encourages people not to have life insurance for their entire life. They encourage them to have life insurance when they need to rent an estate until they have the actual estate, okay? So the basis of every financial plan is protection management. Number 2 is debt management. People need to get out of debt. And then once they're out of debt, they need to start saving money. Now, saving money is not the same as investing money. Saving money, for example, is for an emergency fund. An emergency fund, they have to put away maybe 3 months to 6 months of their income, their gross income, for an emergency. So in case their car blows up, hopefully not with them in it, but if something happens and they've got to buy a new car, or they've got to do something else that's major, buy a new appliance, then they can afford to do that without putting it on their Visa or MasterCard, and certainly without taking a penalty and going into their 401k or 403b. So an emergency fund is huge. And then after that is income management. Okay, income management is, okay, here I am, I'm 67, here's how much there is in Social Security. That number may be 0, and so I need to I need to have the rest of the money to manage my income. That has to do with one of our previous training classes too, when we talked about retirement accounts and individual retirement accounts. We talked about annuities. All those things are with retirement in mind. So those are the things that are addressed in the financial needs analysis. Now, what I show them next is on this page. Saving for retirement needs. And a little yellow box at the bottom has the most important number in the entire 28-page or however many pages that client has of printout. The most important number is called their FIN, Financial Independence Number. And I'll tell people, you can forget your Social Security number, you can forget your phone number, but don't forget this number, because this is the number of dollars you need, John and Mary, on the day that you retire in order to be able to live for the rest of your life. And that's the number of dollars they have to be able to shoot for. And then the financial needs analysis shows them exactly how to hit that goal. How much do they have to invest? It's absolutely huge. Okay, so I show them that, and I do go through this page a little bit. That's called Saving for Retirement Needs. It's the one I just showed you. And there are lots of ways for them to save that money. For example, this particular family, this is for me to show you. This is not for you to show the client, because you're not trying to keep it from them. You're just trying not to overwhelm them. Okay, but they can start saving $200 a month, and then as their income goes up and inflation goes up and everything else goes up, $300, $400 until they get to where they're saving the full amount they need to save in order to hit that retirement goal. The computer is much smarter than I am. The arithmetic that it does is absolutely incredible. It understands the binomial theorem and all the things that you have to understand in order to figure the time value of money. The computer does all of that. You don't even have to be able to add. You just have to be able to input, okay? And so the next thing that I show the people, and I do show it from the financial needs analysis, because I think this is one of the most valuable parts of it, is their debt resolution summary. This summarizes the debt that they have, okay? Now this particular family had 3 Visa cards, some in her name, some in his name. They have an automobile loan. They have a loan with Bank of America for their mortgage, and actually had a MasterCard. And the total of all of their debts is $263,000. And the amount of interest that they're going to pay is $352,000. And they were going to be out of debt by the year 2068. 2068. I'm going to be a little pile of nitrogen someplace in 2068. It's ridiculous to have to go 48 more years, is when you're going to be out of debt. Everybody would want to be out of debt sooner than that. And so this first page tells them the bad news. This is how much debt you have. You're going to pay $325,000 in interest in order to get rid of that debt. Or, John and Mary, if you choose to follow this program, you can be out of debt in 18 years. And what you're going to be saving is $163,000 in interest. And if they use this program, which is called debt stacking, then it's going to add significantly to their retirement program. That's shown on the next page. Debt resolution, debt stacking details. Now, how does debt stacking work? It's brilliant. If you are a fan, as I am, of the famous financial planner who's on television and on radio all the time, you probably know who I'm talking about. Then you probably are aware of what he calls debt snowballing. It's the same thing, debt stacking. And what you do is they have all of these debts, and as I mentioned, it's a little over $250,000 in debt. And one of those credit cards is going to be the first one paid off. You don't need to know which one it is. You just list them. You list the balances. You list the payments and the interest rates. We talked about that last time. But the computer does all the arithmetic. So the computer has figured out that Visa card number 3 is going to be the first one that's paid off. And that's going to free up their $10 minimum payment. They got a $10 minimum payment on that card. But once it's paid off, that's $10 that the program says, okay, now apply that to Visa card number 2. And it does the arithmetic to tell which card to apply it to. Visa card number 2 with an additional $10, that's going to be paid off by the year 2024 in their case. But that frees up $117. And now they take the $117 and you add it to the, turns out it's Visa card number 1, and that one's paid off 4 months later. But now you've freed up a total of $152. You take the whole $152 and you apply it on the MasterCard, and that MasterCard is paid off a year later. And then that frees up $214. So you see how each one of these frees it up until you get to the mortgage payment, the Bank of America at the bottom. You've already freed up $688 in this family's case. That $688 gets added to their entire monthly mortgage payment, which was $1,334, and then that whole amount gets paid toward the mortgage, and the mortgage is paid off by 2039. Now, you decide, would you rather be out of debt entirely, including your mortgage, by the year 2039 or by the year 2068? You decide. That's pretty easy. Now, why do I show this and that thing? It took me maybe 3 or 4 minutes to show them the whole debt resolution summary, the bad news, to show them the debt stacking program, show them the good news. Now they're going to be out of debt in a fraction of the time. Why did I show them that in more detail than I show them the rest of the stuff? Because this is what nobody else does. This is what nobody else does. And this actually holds their hand through the process and says, okay, this month, you'll start doing this card. And it goes all the way through until they're totally out of debt. Now, by the way, once they're out of debt, they have freed up $2,000 plus of their money that was going toward debt. And of course, that depends on what, the client's information. I've had it much worse. But in this case, it's freed up $2,000. So starting at that time, they take the $2,000 and they start putting it into their retirement plan. And they put that money into the retirement plan, and they have an extra, this particular client, an extra $521,000 at retirement. You know what they say at retirement, every little extra $500,000 helps. I mean, this is a big deal. And so all of that information is on those 3 pages. Now, in this one, it's the next page. I review for them the theory of decreasing responsibility that I was just talking about a little while ago. And it's in the presentation. You did it when you were in their home the first time. But I review that for them so that they understand they don't need to go out and buy a whole life policy and be just be encumbered by these gargantuan payments for the rest of their lives. As soon as they're self-insured, they dump the insurance. That's how much I show these people. That's all I show them. 28-page document. I showed them, 5 pages? That's all I show. Why? Because I do not want to overwhelm them, and I don't want to be in their home until next Tuesday. I don't show them every number. When I show them the financial needs, the FIN, financial independence number, I do not say, now your financial independence number is $1,153,068. I don't read long numbers to them. I'll say that's about $1.2 million. You say things that they can key in on, that they can remember. But then I'm done with the financial needs analysis, and I close up the folder, and I put it on the table. I don't hand it to them because they're going to be looking through it instead of listening to you. But I put it on the table. And I say, no, John and Mary, this belongs to you. In your leisure, put your feet up on a coffee table, look through it. If you have any questions about any of the details, please call me. I'll be happy to answer them at any time. But what I've done is I've taken the information from your FNA and I've summarized it. And it's on this one sheet of paper. This is the financial needs analysis action sheet, because this is what I want them to take action on as soon as they possibly can, which means now. Okay? And it has several areas. Now, in their case, the first area is savings. And that's what I always put first. The savings and investing, you need $1.2 million the day you turn 67 years of age. That's your financial independence number. This is going to require an additional $400 a month put away if you earn an 8% return. Now, as that sheet in the FNA showed, you can actually start lower and build your way up to it, or you can put your money in a vehicle that has a historical return of more than 8%. And if they get more than an 8% return, of course, they need to save significantly less. So you show them this amount just to be conservative. If you earn an 8% rate of return, you need an additional $400 of investing. Okay? And if you put it into a Roth IRA, and this is all here, all you have to do is read it. I've made this sheet so you just read. Okay, you don't have to improvise, you don't have to know anything except how to read. Okay, and it just says, and it's income tax free if you use the Roth IRA. We talked about Roth IRAs in a previous class. Okay, the next thing, John and Mary, is education for the kids. To cover half of all your children's education at an average four-year school, and unless you ran it for specific school. This one wants to go to Berkeley, God forbid. This one wants to go to USC, is a smart kid. This one over here wants to go to MIT. So you can do that too. But in their case, it'll take $1,457 per month to finance it. And it's better to save the money because to finance it, of course, means for them to borrow the money to get student loans, which is how most everybody does it. Last time I mentioned that I actually recommend to most people that they start with a 2-year school, a community college, get all of their riffraff courses out of the way so that they can spend the last 2 years concentrating on the stuff they really love, their major and their minor. And that's what I recommend, and I've been a college professor for 35 years, so I know. But if they finance it, it'll be $1,400 a month, but if they save the money, it'll be $985 a month. That's a lot of money. They can put that money into a 529 plan, which is a tax-advantaged program. And that's something that a securities license representative will show them. And you tell them that. You don't start saying, well, put that money, put your mutual fund into a 529. If you're not securities licensed, we'll come and visit you in prison, if you say stuff like that. But if you don't want to be visited in prison, then say, and I'm the financial needs analysis representative, but when it comes time for you to put that money away, I'm going to introduce you to our securities representative, and they'll take care of that. Fair enough? And they'll be the one that can set up that 529 plan for the kids and the Roth IRA plan for the couple. Now, John and Mary, I highly recommend legal protection. We are in a society where everybody loves to sue everybody. Okay? For $28 a month, they can have access to an attorney, not a legal temp, not some paralegal, but an attorney, a good one. And you already probably know that I am a huge believer in that program. That PLPP, I've had it for decades. It has saved me thousands of dollars over that length of time, and paying $20-some a month, it's amazing. And that's something that all of you are licensed to do, not because you have an insurance license, because you have a solution number. The day you get your solution number, which is usually at the moment you finish your IBA, that day you can, or maybe the day later so that they can set up your compensation. But you can immediately set up somebody's PLPP, that's a Primerica Legal Protection Plan. You can set that up immediately, and I highly recommend you start with your own, because people need to have an attorney. And one way is you can go and you can pay a $2,000 fee to have someone on retainer, so that you have the privilege of paying them $850 an hour for their work later, or you can have access to an attorney for $20-some a month. Plan A, Plan B. I mean, that's a tough decision, right? So highly recommend that PLPP. But you read it. For $28 a month, you'll have access to an attorney at your time of legal need. Also, a will, a living will, unlimited phone consultations, IRS services, and trial defense. And $28 a month, and you can be your own agent on that. So that transaction is a no-brainer. Okay. The last one I have here is life insurance. John and Mary, you remember I showed you a few minutes ago that the foundation of every financial plan, as you're building that financial house, don't want to start with a roof and start putting money into an investment plan at the beginning. You want to start with a foundation. Take care of the things that you can't plan for. You need car insurance, you need homeowners insurance. We can help you with both of those. And by the way, if you're a brand new representative with a solution number and just filled out as IBA, you can help them with their car insurance and their homeowners insurance. You're going to get a referral fee, so you don't have to know anything. You give them a phone number, and you give them your solution number so you can get paid. And you don't make a fortune for doing stuff on a referral basis, but if you do enough of those, you can make a serious amount of extra income in a month without ever getting an insurance license and securities license. You can just help people with PLPP and Vivint home protection, ID theft, legal protect, the auto insurance, homeowners insurance. You can help people all day long with those things, and you could make a couple $1,000s a month just by doing that. But remember that I told you that the foundation of every financial plan, John and Mary, is life insurance. Now, right now, in this case, they were uncovered. Now, if they have existing coverage, you already know what to do. If you've been watching these training classes faithfully, if not, go back and check out the one that's on how you replace different kind of life insurance policies. And you have already borrowed their insurance policies if they have any. You've already taken it to the office. I've already helped you do a computerized analysis of those policies. Now you're back in their home, and you show them that analysis. It's a 2-page analysis, okay? And again, all you have to do is read. There's nothing to it, okay? And so they now know that they're better off buying term and investing the difference. And so, but in this case, they didn't have any insurance. So I said, now, John and Mary, right now you are uncovered. For $90.79 per month, you can get level coverage for this, in this case, 20 years, $200,000 on John, $150,000 on Mary. If you want to vary that amount, there's a table in your financial needs analysis. I'll be happy to show you. But does that sound like something that makes sense to you? And if they say, yeah, $90 a month, we can afford that. Great. Let me ask you a few questions. Make sure you qualify for the plan. And you'll start asking them, do you happen to know your social security number off the top of your head? Most of that information you already have. You have it on their FNA. So that's what you do on the second appointment. And normally you will do the insurance sale on the second appointment. And then if you're securities license or a securities license rep, if you're not, we'll do the securities on the third appointment. And you'll build a relationship with that client. And you do that well, you'll continue to make money from the same clients over dozens of years. Just ask Meredith Milosh if it's worthwhile following up on existing clients, okay? And she's making a ton of money by going back and talking to old clients. So, enough said. That's the financial needs analysis. That's the FNA action sheet. If you have questions about that, please give me a call. You know I'm available to you 24/7. So that, as they say, is that. Now, let me shift gears. Last time I told you that there are two things that you can control. You can control your activity level. You can control how many times you go out. You can't control what the client's going to do. You can't control what a prospect's going to do, but you can control whether or not you make a phone call. And I'm going to be doing a future class on exactly what is said during that phone call, word for word. And that's available from me too. It can be a real valuable use of your time to come to the office once in a while. And right now the office is closed unless you contact me and say, Dave, could I meet you at the office? Guess what I'm probably going to say? Okay, so going to the office and being able to get these materials, that's a big deal. And you take that phone script and go home and practice it so that you don't have to read and say, hi, John. Oh, this is not John. I'm John. Hi, Bill. So you don't have to stumble through that phone call. Practice it and practice it and practice it until it flows like water. But you can decide how many phone calls you're going to make. You can decide how many people you're going to talk to. Your activity level is something that you can control. How many appointments you're going to set. Now, the second thing that you can control, I told you last time, is your attitude. How do you respond to things? Are you positive? Folks, we don't have the luxury of having a negative attitude. Now, you might be saying, well, luxury? What kind of a luxury is that? I know people that they hang their hat on their right to complain to people. Well, Jack, how are you feeling? Oh, I can't believe it. My legs are worse than they've ever been. I'm hurting all the time, And you want to say to them, well, you're a Christian. Why don't you just go home, But you don't say that. They'll tell you about their, my kidneys are hurting all the time. Well, John, if you didn't weigh 330 pounds, no, I don't say that either. But some people want to complain all the time. Now, if you have a complaint about Primerica, about me, about the home office, about the products, about anything like that, when do you do that complaint? Do you do that complaint when you're at a business overview, a business briefing at the office, and there's 6 people standing within 20 feet of you? When we're in the office, we don't socially distance if there's no COVID-19 scare. So, there are people near you. And then, honestly, I've heard people say, and I'm thinking of two individuals precisely, they were here years ago, they're long gone. And you'll understand why as soon as I tell you what their attitudes were. But one of them would sit and say, man, I can't believe the home office messed up again. I don't know if they lost the application or what they did. I sent this thing in and they lost it, or they said, well, I'm sorry, you need to send it in again. And oh, well, now it took you too long to send it in, so now you need to redo the entire application. That's what they did to me. And she's telling her friend says, oh yeah, well, I can beat that. I tried to set up a securities account that blah, blah, blah. And they're spreading cancer to everybody around them. Not to speak of what they've just done to their own career. Both of those people have quit. I had one guy, I won't mention his name. Somebody, you probably don't remember him because he quit the business many years ago. But I'll call him George. His name wasn't George. And George said to me one day, Dave, I'm going to give this business 2 more months. And then if it doesn't work for me in 2 months, I'm going to quit. He said, what do you think? I said, well, George, this is what I think. I don't think you ought to quit in 2 months. I think you ought to quit right now. He said, what? I said, well, quit, George. You've already quit in your mind. If you've put a deadline on your success, forget about it. You need to go do something else. Go get a job. And you know what George did? He went and got a job and he quit. And then I didn't have to listen to all that stuff anymore. Okay? But if you have a concern, if you have a complaint, if you're concerned about an application that went in, so the home office lost it, if you're concerned about anything, if you have a negative complaint, you come and you talk to me behind a closed door. And you share it personally with me, your RVP, whoever your RVP is. If your RVP is somebody else, then go share it to them, okay? But you share that with them when the door is closed. Because I don't want somebody else to accidentally hear that stuff. Okay? Now, Do bad things happen? Does a home office ever mess up? Does a customer service for PFSSS ever mess up? Sure they do. They're human beings just like you and me, and they mess up just like we do. Okay, but what do you do when that happens? Do you, oh, I can't believe it. Now what am I going to do? It's stupid home office. You don't have the luxury of being negative. Now, Art Williams, I love to quote Art Williams. But one of the things that he said was, folks, dadgummit, nobody will ever follow a negative, frustrated, dadgum crybaby. Well, that's true. And don't ever, ever, did I say ever? Don't ever pass negatives down. You never go to your people and say, well, sorry your application got messed up, but that's typical, that happens with you don't do that. You don't pass negatives down. You don't even pass negatives across. You don't go to other agents and say, man, you understand what happened, right? Now, if I'm preaching too much on this, well, come behind closed doors and tell me, okay? But don't ever pass negatives down. Don't ever pass negatives across. Pass negatives only to your RVP. Only to your RVP. Not even to your trainer, not to your regional leader, to your RVP. That's what they pay us for, to listen to your trash, okay? So you pass it to us. Now, what do you pass to everybody else? You pass your positives down. You pass your positives across to other agents. And now, I believe that eventually, as you work on yourself, and I'm a nut for this, working at making yourself better, that's, spending time in prayer, spending time reading the Bible, spending time making yourself more positive. Now, I'm not recommending that you go out and take somebody's positive thinking course and all that kind of stuff. It's a habit. It's a person can change from negative to positive immediately. Now, I've told people for years, one thing, the difference between humans and animals is that we've got a switch in the back of our head. And that switch, you can flip and change everything in an instant. Man, I can't believe it. Everybody I try to recruit says no, and everything, my best guy quit, and blah, blah, blah. Click. You know what? I'm going to go get 3 brand new people. And I'm going to praise every one of my people. Now, Art used to say, find a reason to praise your people for anything, even if it seems ridiculous. Find an excuse to praise your people and praise them. Now, most of you know that that's what I do. I don't just praise somebody when they get promoted to regional leader. I don't just praise somebody when they get promoted to district leader. I praise somebody when they make their first phone call. Somebody calls me up and says, Dave, guess what? I just made my first phone call. The guy said no, but that's all right, man. I'm getting better and better at it, and I was really happy with myself. And I'll say, Bill, you know how much farther you've already come than everybody else? Making your first phone, man, Bill, I'm so proud of you, I can hardly stand it. That's amazing. By the way, you know where I learned that principle? I learned that principle sitting with Art Williams in his living room in Monroe, Georgia, many years ago. He was introducing his grandchildren. He was bringing in the grandchildren once at a time. Hey, Dave, I'd like you to meet little Art. Dadgummit, this guy's going to be the best dadgum football player you ever heard in the history of the world. He's faster than everybody. He's stronger than everybody. I'm so proud of this guy, I can hardly stand it. And then he brings in his granddaughter. I think her name was Elizabeth. But Isn't she the most beautiful girl you've ever seen? And she is smart. She knows everything. She'll probably be a dadgum PhD someday. I'm so proud of her. I can hardly stand it. And one at a time, he came in. He praised his kids. You know what I learned from that? I learned how to raise my kids. And you ask my kids who are now, in their 30s and 40s, ask them whether I followed that advice. You praise them every time you have a chance to praise them. And then when they do something wrong, you don't have to say, man, you're such a loser. I can't believe it. Why didn't you listen to me the first time? You can't do that. But what you do is you praise them for this and praise them for that, the things that they do right. And then if they do something else that's not right and you don't praise them, they're smart enough to say, wait a minute, Dad didn't praise me. I guess I messed up. Kids are smart. By the way, you treat your spouse that way too. Janet, usually your roast beef is pretty good. This one, I noticed that you burnt the part that I like the most. You don't do that. If she says, well, Dave, no, my wife's name is not Janet, by the way. Dave, how was the roast beef? Oh, Janet, it was astounding. Thank you. Boy, I never could have done that. You praise them. Don't lie to people. But if there's any excuse at all to praise them, I mean, if she messed up the roast beef, you tell her how great the mashed potatoes are. Okay, but figure out an excuse to praise your people. Art Williams wrote a book. It's called Pushing Up People. I have probably several copies of that book. Pushing Up People. And what did he teach in that? Exactly what you're hearing today. The way that you advance is not by trying to get your people to produce so that you can go up. It's getting your people to go up on their own. You push them up. You encourage them. You be available to them. You invite them to come over to the house. You take them out to lunch. You know how many times I've taken my people out to lunch? It's ridiculous. That's why I look like this. You spend that time with people. You get to know their families. Because Primerica is not a darn business. Primerica is a family. These people stick together. My friends are in Primerica. That's where my friends are. And once in a while, I'll make a friend that's not in Primerica, but believe me, they will be. Okay? But we're building a family here. When you build a team, that's somebody that you plan to be with for the rest of your life. Okay? You push up people, finding an excuse to praise people, and then praising them for it. A couple final things. Last week, I mentioned to you that in Primerica, there is at least one senior national sales director who's just like you. Let me expand on that just a little bit. I know people who are so outgoing, it's ridiculous. They can't stop talking. They yell when they talk. Now, one of the people that I've grown to respect and love most is a fellow by the name of Jimmy Meyer. If you know Jimmy Meyer, you've watched his videos, this guy yells and screams just like Mario Arizon, you can get all excited and start, no. Well, of course they're excited to make $2 million a year. No, he was like, that's why he makes $2 million a year, because he was excited. Folks, 90+% of being successful is being excited. 90+%. The other 10% is kind of a dogfight, but 90% of it is just being excited, having a big dream. Now, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But Jimmy Meyer is a real outgoing, enthusiastic, yelling kind of guy, makes a lot of money. The man that mentored me is Doug Hartman. Many of you know him. And if you know Doug Hartman reasonably well, you know that he admits to being an introvert. He doesn't like to go out in big crowds and speak to a big audience. Does he ever do it? He sure does, because he does some of the most inspiring speaking I have ever heard in my life. And I think I've told you about one of them. You know, we were in one of the company conferences, and Doug could hardly talk. He had a problem with his throat. He couldn't speak, and he struggled and tried, and he went through that thing. He stood up at the podium and he was speaking. They brought him water. He came and he drank a little bit of water, and it could hardly be heard. But you know what he didn't do? He didn't walk away and quit. He finished his job there at the podium. He finished that. Folks, that was the most inspiring thing I have ever heard in Primerica. You know why Doug makes a lot of money today? Because he didn't quit like everybody else. And because he continues, a job isn't finished until it's done. Now, Doug could quit anytime he wants to. He may retire someday. He's actually retired 3 times up to now and couldn't stand being away from Primerica, so he came back. Because Primerica is the most positive people, you know, in the world. These are people who understand we do not have the luxury of being negative. And so Doug lives his life that way. He hadn't quit. And he deserves to retire. He deserves to quit. He makes millions of dollars a year and just, you know, and he didn't have to show up. He's told us, you know, if I stop showing up, I'll probably make more money, you know, I'll have less liabilities. But he still loves this business, still shows up. Why? Why does Doug keep showing up? He doesn't show up for himself anymore. He doesn't show up even for his family anymore. His family's okay. You know why he shows up? He shows up for you. He shows up for me. He wants us to be successful. But Doug is an introvert. He doesn't like to talk to crowds. He's the exact opposite of Jimmy Meyer. But they both make $2 million a year. You know why? Because they understand the principles of Primerica. That's why every time we do one of these training classes, I'm going to give you some academic information. That's for the eggheads that want to know, you know, why all the numbers are what they are. I'm going to, like I gave you the information on the financial needs and out. But at the end of every one of these classes, I'm going to talk about those principles of Primerica, because I believe in how important it is. Last thing, Art Williams taught us: without a big dream, you're a dead duck. A big dream. And here's what I mean by that. Some people get involved with Primerica because, you know, all I want to do is I want to earn $500 a month. Is this a good place to go to make $500 a month? Absolutely. They can go as a brand new person who's a qualified trainer. They can go out and they can close 2 transactions, make about $700, and they'd be done for the month. Okay, they don't have to burn down the forest in order to make $700 a month, but they can do that, and then they can quit for the rest of the month. And if that's their goal, that's a good goal. But if you want to go, as Doug says, for the brass ring, if you want to have it all, if you want to make a lot of income, if you want to be free financially and free in your time. And I've told you before, I know a lot of people who are free financially, but their jobs own them. I don't want to do that. I don't want to work for a boss. I know a lot of people who have all sorts of free time. They haven't got any money. You can go downtown in Los Angeles, you can find thousands of them. But if you want to have free time and you want to be financially free, well, where are you going to go? Primerica has the answer to that. You have an opportunity to do something astounding with your life, to change your family tree for generations. You have that opportunity here. Folks, don't mess that up. If your dream is not big enough to include all the people in your organization, then it's not big enough. Without a big dream, you're a dead duck. I want to thank you for watching. As the Bible says, be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. God bless you. We'll talk to you next time.